7:15 on the last Wednesday of July. I want to welcome back Dennis Dunderdale, and along with him is Corporal Doug Small, Arkansas Game and Fish Commission. Gentlemen, welcome.
Good morning.
How's everybody?
Good. Glad to be back.
Good to see you. What you been up to?
Oh, just came back from a nice 2.5-week vacation up to New England. Went up to Cape Cod and up to, as we say back home,
Any humidity up there?
Bahaba. I'll tell you, the weather was fantastic.
It
Was like 65 at night, 75 during the day with a nice offshore breeze. Ate seafood until it was coming out of my ears.
Did you have any lobster?
Lots of lobster and steamed clams, and yeah, you name it. It was good. We had a good time. Played with the grandkids and did all that stuff. Yeah, it was good. But it's good to be back.
Yeah, back in swing of things.
Right. Kind of turn the page into the next part of our season because we're still finishing up our boater education. We don't have any classes hard scheduled right now, but I will be doing one or two more of those probably. Because once school gets started, most of the schools in this area now are bringing those in too. The high school does, of course, with Coach Payton. He's real good about that. But anyway, we're also gearing up for our hunter education season. In fact, we just had the first of those at the library last week, and we'll be scheduling more of those in the Twin Lakes area because I cover 9 counties up here, so we spread those out from all the way from Harrison over to Batesville.
Wow.
So, yeah, so we're getting busy. We're looking forward to some new changes in that. It won't really affect too many folks, other than it will require an online registration process. So you won't be able to just show up anymore. You have to register online. We're still working out the bugs on that, so we're not quite ready to announce those details because we don't have them, but it's coming. Let's see what else. Of course, the boating education. I like to remind everybody. Anybody born on or after January 1st, 1986 needs to have a boater education card if they're going to operate the boat, by themselves, because there's some caveats in there, but the magic date is on or after 1986. For hunter education, it's just the reverse, on or after 1968. Anybody that's going to hunt needs to have a hunter education card.
Okay, let me stop you right here.
Okay.
I blow both of these dates out of the water. Does that keep me exempt from having to go to the class?
Correct. Yes.
Shouldn't I take the class anyway?
Well, there's a difference between exempt and ought to. Yeah. Well, actually, one of the things we talk about in there is just because it's legal doesn't mean it's right. And of course, everybody could stand the education that goes along with either of those courses. Hunter education, and it's all about hunter safety and ethics and involvement and all of those things. But boater education, there's more to it than just make sure you wear your life jacket. I mean, if there's one thing you come away with, we want you to understand, wear your life jacket. It's not going to do you any good sitting on the deck of the boat.
Well, now, in hunter education, though, there could be laws that have been put on the books since the last time I walked through the woods that I don't know about.
That's exactly right.
And so if I walk out in the woods carrying a shotgun dove hunting or something, I could be in violation.
Yeah, I'll bet you Corporal Small probably runs into that once in a while, don't you, Doug?
Do they, Corporal?
We do. But if other states require you to have that hunter education, if you go out west and hunt, you cannot get a license in those states unless you have a hunter education card.
Regardless of age.
Regardless of age.
Yeah, that's true. Colorado's one that comes to mind. They don't care how old you are. If you're hunting in Colorado, you need a card. In fact, we get a lot of calls for folks that, hey, I'm going on an elk hunt next week. What do I do? Because we do have a process for that. We don't just have the live instructor-led classes. We also have a couple of other options. For Hunter Ed, we have 2 options. One is an online course that you can go to agfc.com. We'll say that a few more times throughout the show.
I've got it pulled up here, and we can drop down.
Yep, you can go there, and there's an online course that you can take, and it'll cost you, if you do the online version, it'll cost you, I think it's $20 for the Hunter Ed. And there's a little bit to it. I mean, you have to go through, and there's quizzes after each chapter, and then there's a final quiz at the end of all the chapters, and then when you pass that, it has you print out a voucher saying that you've completed all that, and then you come to us to take a live proctored test, and that's a 100-question test for the Hunter Ed. We also have a similar option. We will give you a CD-ROM for free, and it pretty much does the same thing. The only difference there is it's not a web-based application. It's computer-specific. So if you, say, start the class at work on your computer and then bring it home, you're going to have to start all over again because it puts information on the registry of each computer. But if it's a laptop, then yeah, it's no big
Carry it
deal. Like
with
you're
you,
going to
sure.
just use the computer at the house. And that's a free way that you can do it at your own pace and still get the card. And when you finish the test, we give you a temporary card and then send in the information. And a couple of weeks later, or hopefully a couple of weeks later, you'll get your permanent card. So that's a way that somebody who needs a card in a hurry can do it. We have a similar option for the boater education, except we don't offer the CD-ROM option for boater ed. It's only online, and that does cost $25, which we kind of hate that, but that's not our deal. That's the company that owns the website that charges that. It's not a game and fish fee. So those are two ways, folks, that are waiting for a class to come up that can't find when they can do it. Otherwise, you watch our website, agfc.com, follow the education links to either hunter education or boater education, and there'll be a list by county of all the classes that are scheduled and being offered. Of course, that gets updated all the time, and as soon as I schedule the local classes here, we'll put those on there too.
I'm going through the hunting license permits right now, taking a look at it. Pretty user-friendly.
I'll tell you, there is a lot of information. We do hear some feedback that that website is sometimes difficult to find your way through, and I suppose that's maybe a valid comment, but there's so much information on there. I don't know if I would be. I'm not a web designer, so I wouldn't be anyway, but I don't know if I could make it any easier to find the stuff. There's a ton of information on that website, including maps, by the way. Just kind of a side note, we get calls from folks from time to time asking if our wildlife management areas, if we publish maps. There's an online interactive map on there. If you look over on the resources tab and pull that down, you'll see a maps link.
Yeah.
And then on that list is an interactive map. And
AGFC interactive map right
yep,
there.
And that is a really slick interactive tool. It's sort of like Google Earth. I mean, in fact, it links to Google Earth. If you want to view that information in Google Earth, you can. But our GIS, our Graphics Information Systems Department, does a really good job keeping all of that.
Wow.
It lists all the wildlife management areas, the WMAs, or public hunting grounds that we manage. And if you click on one of those, it'll pull up information about that, and on that balloon that pops up will be a link to the regulations for that WMA, because
Okay.
each WMA has regulations in addition to the
This is
statewide
cool.
regs. Yeah, there's a lot there.
Huh. It's showing Slippery Hollow Natural Area, then it's got the Ozark Plateau, McElroy, Madison County, Sweden Creek Natural Area. Wow, there's a lot of stuff here.
Yeah, too bad it's a radio show.
Yeah, yeah.
We ought to have one of those.
Need to go with the camera, don't I?
Interactive radio shows. Okay, everybody,
that's
pull up
cool.
your links.
I didn't know that was there.
Yeah, that's just one of the little hidden treasures. I'll tell you another thing that's on there. I think we mentioned it last time when Marilyn was here, but we get a lot of calls from school teachers asking if we have classes or programs or workshops or things like that. Also on that education link, there's another button that's just for educators. And there's I never counted them, but there's easily 150, maybe 200 different lesson plans that teachers can use for whatever, outdoor education, conservation, fishing, hunting, you name it. There's a program in there. They're all aligned to the state framework so that they're legal for the teachers to use in the classroom during the curriculum time. It's not extracurricular. It's actually legitimate, in-class stuff. Anyway, there's just a ton of things in there. So
Yeah, for folks that are listening in, it's agfc.com.
It's pretty easy to remember, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
agfc.com.
Yeah. So anyway, I'll tell you another thing I did want to mention. Before we leave, I want to mention some things coming up over at the Fred Berry Center. But one of the folks, since Doug is here, I'm going to toot his horn a little bit because, well, those of you that know Doug probably know he's not really that shy or humble, but he's humble enough to not brag on himself on the radio, at least. One of the points I want to mention is, a few years ago, this area, especially the Twin Lakes, had a pretty bad reputation as being party central, up on the lakes, and there were a lot of pretty serious accidents and tons of boating while intoxicated issues and all that. And of course, we kind of track that from an education standpoint. We track the fine money that's collected. And I want to come back to what happens to that fine money. It doesn't go to game and fish, but we'll tell you what does happen to it. But anyway, in 2013, Baxter County received the most fine money. They collected the most fines in the entire state. And I think it was probably similar to that, in previous years as well. But between Corporal Crownover, Lyndall Crownover, and I was going to say Corporal
Sergeant.
Yeah, now it's Sergeant Chris Majors. Sergeant Majors. Chris Majors got promoted to sergeant. But anyway, these three guys, they're the Baxter County wildlife officers. Man, they cracked down and did a yeoman's job up on that lake. Now, Norfolk Lake isn't even on the list of the highest offenders. And Baxter County in general is number 24 in the state with collected fines. So I mean, and that's just
good job, guys.
That is an absolute direct result of
What was the
enforcement.
main issue?
I'm going to let Doug talk about that.
Alcohol.
Alcohol. On every boat that you stopped, there was alcohol involved. Now it's not against the law to drink a beer on the lake. Where it gets illegal is where you have somebody operating a vessel that is intoxicated. And a lot of these that we've arrested, they have a sober driver in the boat. But we as men sometimes, why didn't you let your wife drive? Well, she's not driving my boat. Well, you're going with me, so yeah,
somebody's got to now.
She's going to drive the boat, or we're going to tow your boat. Well, she can drive my boat. And now people are getting more educated toward it, and they're getting designated drivers, which shows we haven't had a fatality accident on Lake Norfolk in a few years now, which is a good deal. And that's, our goal is, as officers with the Game and Fish, is not to go out there and ruin your day. Our job is to keep you safe and make sure that you have a great time enjoying our waterways and come back and enjoy it, and not to set up on the bank while we try to recover one of your family members because of an alcohol-related accident. And that's our goal, so everybody can come to the lake.
And
or
it's
rivers.
not just the people in the boat that's being operated by an intoxicated operator. It's what if they hit somebody else on the lake?
Or
that has happened.
The thing about a boat, it doesn't have seat belts. And when you hit something at 60 mile an hour, you're going to come out of that boat at 60 mile an hour. And, we don't have a lot of sand around the lake, one or two places. When you come out of the boat, you're either going to hit a tree or you're going to hit a rock. And it's not real friendly with the human body.
Got about a minute and a half before we go to break, guys. What else do we need to cover for the news here?
The app, while Dennis was talking about checking, all the statistics and our website, we also have an app for our phone that is very user-friendly. If you go to the App Store, it's a free download, but you check your deer, you can check all the hunting seasons. It'll give you the sunrise, sunset time in your area. It's a very...
And it goes by the GPS is in the phone, doesn't it?
Yes, sir.
Cool.
And you can check your deer right off of this, which is a very important issue of tagging your game, your turkey.
Wow. There you go.
Right, especially since we don't have the check stations anymore. They kind of did away with that a few years ago, which, some folks kind of like the idea of having to take the deer and check it, as part of the process. But for whatever reasons, we don't do it that way. But now you can either phone it in or do it on your app. In fact, what I've done is as soon as I tag my deer, and of course most folks may know, but in case you don't, the first thing you do after you've shot that deer, the very first thing before you even move it is to fill out your tag. Don't just tag it, fill out the tag and then tag it. And then right then and there, after I do my happy dance and take my pictures and drag it to the car and all that, I usually have a little bit of downtime. I just pull out my phone if I have service, which I usually do, and register it right then and there. Then you don't forget.
It has a place in there where you can take a picture and attach your deer in your trophy case, and it's got a hunting app, fishing near me, same thing you can hit, and it'll show you the nearest WMA close to you, where you can, and then it'll even give you directions up that way if you need it.
Boy, can't beat that.
No,
We're visiting with Dennis and Doug, Arkansas Game and Fish Commission. We're coming up on the news break. Stick around, and while we're on the news break, if you want to join us on the website, go to agfc.com and take a look at everything the Arkansas Game and Fish has on the website. And there's the theme song. We'll be right back after the news. 7:35 on this July 29th. Continuing our discussion with Dennis Dunderdale and Corporal Doug Small, Arkansas Game and Fish Commission. What's next, gentlemen?
Well, we were sort of on the topic of fines and violations, because we talked about a bunch of other things too. And I'd mentioned when we first started the program that sometimes we get folks who complain about the fines, and of course nobody wants to pay a fine. We perfectly understand that. But we do get complaints of folks thinking that Game and Fish gets to keep that money. In fact, I've heard some folks, or you'll read it sometimes on the hunting
you guys
forums.
are rich, aren't you?
Well, that's why those game wards are all driving around in brand new trucks. Yeah, of course. That's because, that's what you're going to do. Well, actually, couldn't be further from the truth. What really happens with that money is it gets collected, of course, at the county or in the court where you had the offense. But then that money goes through, it used to go through the Department of Education, and they're sort of changing that process now. I think it's rural schools or something. But anyway, that money goes through the Department of Education and goes back to the county, back to the county judge in the county where that ticket was written. And then the judge distributes it to whatever educational institution, normally a school, but it could be 4-H or it could be something else, and goes towards outdoor or conservation education. And so Game and Fish never sees a dime of that money. We don't see it, we don't collect it, we don't deposit it into our accounts, and it certainly doesn't buy trucks or boats for wildlife officers or anybody else. So it's important to know that money does go to education, not to us. Doug, you may want to talk a little bit about, because I'm not exactly sure how it works, but isn't there a program where we'll share that fine money with somebody who calls in a tip?
It's a different type of money. We got what's called a Watts line. The number is 1-800-482-9262. That automatically rings into our dispatcher, which is in Mayflower, Arkansas. It's kind of like a wildlife 911, you could call it. Really? They call, say, hey, somebody's spotlighting in my field over here. They call me at 2 o'clock in the morning. Well, I get up and go answer that call. And we'll say Dennis is the general public that has made this phone call. He can give his information, or he does not have to. He can do an anonymous tip. So I get up and I go down there and I catch these people spotlighting. Well, at that point, I write them some violations, some tickets for night hunting, use artificial light, and it may go into more things, but we'll just say we use those two. Well, so I issue them citations. Well, I call Dennis back and tell him, hey, I've caught these guys. Would you like the reward? Well, what do you mean, what's the reward? Well, when you turn somebody in and we write a citation on that violation, Dennis is entitled to half of the fine money. So if I wrote these guys $1,000 worth of tickets, Dennis Dunderdale is allowed $500 of that money. I give him a number, he'll call it in, I send the paperwork in. A few days later, he'll get a letter from the Arkansas Game and Fish with a check for the amount of the reward money.
I think I'll start go looking for poachers.
He gets to do that. And well, night hunting is one of our most serious offense. Poaching. Keeping too many trout, keeping a short brown trout, that's still poaching. It's on a lesser, but it's still poaching. It's taking part of the resources that you're not supposed to be taking. Mm-hmm. That's why we have the bag limits and stuff like that.
So is poaching considered any illegal taking of game? Would that be
that's poaching?
Kind of a simple way to put it?
Mm-hmm. I would think.
Yeah. A lot of times folks think that what they're doing maybe is a minor offense. Maybe they're not going to take that day, but I'm not a poacher.
Guides.
Yeah, and they think...
Don't you just have the guides? The guidebooks?
We do have the guidebooks.
Yeah. They're not out yet. They will hopefully be soon. We've got our seasons opening soon, which I'm going to run through those in just a minute. But yeah, those guidebooks will be out pretty soon. Because the guidebooks from last year, of course, have last year's dates in them, and there will be some changes in some of those laws.
But let's say we got folks from out of state that are out on the river trout fishing, mm-hmm. and like David said, or Doug said, they pull up a small, what'd you say, a small brown, too small?
Brown trout.
Mm-hmm. If you don't have the guide, you don't know what the length should be.
Correct.
So that's why you guys put the guides.
It's right. Free.
Yeah. The guide is free, and you can get one any place you can buy a license. And if you buy your license online, you can call Game and Fish, and they'll gladly send you one. Or you can stop by our office in Mountain Home, and we have a supply of them. We'll keep them there.
Or you can call the Mountain Home office during the week or Calico Rock Regional office if you've got a question about a length limit or a bag limit. The secretaries would be more than happy to answer that question because they keep a guidebook right there. And if they can't answer it, then they'll have one of the wildlife officers, call you back.
Yeah.
And we'll get your question answered.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, what we've covered here today is if you're in a boat, don't become intoxicated. If you're going to hunt, get the education. If you're going to run a boat, get the education. There shouldn't be any reason for any fines because you've got the information and all of the educational processes available to the public.
The information is available and readily available. There's a guidebook. There's information online. There's information on the telephone. There's the web, the iPhone apps, or what's the other phone company? Anyway, apps for either of the iPhone platforms. I mean, cell phone platforms. So yeah, there's really no reason to know. And of course, even if you don't know, that's not going to get you out of the ticket. It doesn't mean you didn't violate because you didn't know.
Common sense goes a long way.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna throw you guys a curveball. Can you get this Arkansas wildlife calendar strictly online, or do you have them in the offices?
The calendar actually is part of the subscription to Arkansas Wildlife Magazine, which, if you're not familiar with that, that has got to be probably the best deal of any kind of publication you can buy. I forget now what the annual subscription is. Is
Right
it
here it says
$20? Is it?
Right here it's showing $5 for the calendar, but I don't see anything about this.
Oh, you can buy just the calendar.
That's what it's showing.
That's a new deal then, because it was the magazine.
Don't you know that'd be totally gorgeous?
Oh,
It's a good calendar because it has all the opening dates of gun season printed on there.
Oh yeah.
It has a lot of information. Same thing that it doesn't tell you the length limits and stuff like that.
Right.
But it does tell you today's opening day of modern gun season or today's opening day of muzzleloading season, youth, and it gives you the zones of where that season is open.
Right. All the zone maps are on the back page of that calendar, which is very important to know. We didn't talk about zones, but
Yeah, because you need to know what zone you're in.
What zone is Baxter County?
3.
well, this part of Baxter County is 3.
Oh, don't
If
tell
you
me they
cross-
pulled that.
If you cross,
Yeah.
if you cross
The river.
the White River,
Yeah.
you go into Zone 2.
Right.
But Sycamore National Forest also lies within Zone 2, which is also a different zone within itself. On our handbooks or our guidebooks, you may be hunting, or we'll make it easier. We'll put it into fishing terms. If you go, the statewide bag limit on crappie is 20. So you read through the front parts of the pages, and you say, well, shoot, the north zone for crappie is 20. So you go to Lake North Fork and you start catching 20 crappie, and we pull up and check you. Well, Lake North Fork in the back on the hunting guidebooks, the pages are blue tabbed. So you flip back and you have to go to Lake North Fork and read what the length limit and the possession limit of crappie is. Well, it's 15.
Oops.
So people see this, and it goes the same way with in hunting. We have a couple management areas on this side of the river. So we'll say Bennett's Bayou out toward Walker Creek on County Road 46. It will open up the same day as modern gun season, but it usually only runs 7 days, and then it closes and reverts back to archery only. So you look at your map and you say, well, this is Zone 3. It's open till the 24th. Well, today's the 20th. You go over there and you start hunting. You kill a deer. Well, you're hunting in a closed season. It's a zone within its zone itself, if you understand what I'm saying.
Exactly.
So, we've got
So
the
you've got to
statewide-
read that book, and you've got to flip. If you're hunting management areas, national forest, anything like that, you need to go to the back of those books and look and see what the dates are for Sycamore National Forest, Buffalo National Forest, Norfolk Wildlife Management Area, Gene Rush Wildlife Management Area. If you're going to go down there, you just can't pile up and go to a management area in the state, because some of our management areas are a draw system where you get issued a tag and you're allowed to go in there and hunt. If you don't have that tag, you're not
do it.
going
There
to
you
get
go.
a hunt.
Right.
Hey, let's go ahead and take this break real quick.
Sure.
That gives us more time to finish out the show. More with Dennis and Doug right after this. Stick around. Be right back. 7:48. More with Dennis and Doug, Arkansas Game and Fish Commission. Appreciate you guys coming in today. It's always good when you guys come in.
Yeah, it's fun to be here. So, yeah, we have the statewide regulations, and then, of course, there's area-specific or lake-specific regulations. So the takeaway from that is make dang sure you've got that guidebook and that you read it. And if you have questions, which you probably will, there's a lot of information in there, don't be afraid to call. Either call the Little Rock office and speak to somebody there, or call our office over in Calico Rock, or call me. We'll give you my number at the end, or we'll get you to the right person. I don't know a lot of the things, but I know a lot of the people who do, so we go there. We do have some seasons coming up. We've got teal season. Well, I'd say sort of is the first. Mourning dove and dove season actually is the first one. That starts October 5th. I'm not going to run through every single date because September 5th. Thanks, Doug. Runs through October 24th, and then it opens again December 19th and runs through January 7th.
And that was what?
Dove. That's dove season, yeah. So that's coming up pretty quickly.
Make sure you have your guns plugged. That's a regulation on migratory birds.
Right, yep.
You have to have your shotgun plugged.
And some folks think migratory birds just means waterfowl, ducks and geese, but it includes doves, teal, of course those are ducks, but rail, woodcock, snipe, all of that. So there's a bunch there. Then we also have the early Canada goose season. That's a 2-week season. That starts September 1st. And again, there's some special regs involved with that, so make sure you get the book there. And then deer season, of course, that's coming up in depends on how you want to hunt. If you want to hunt the urban hunt, it takes too long to get into that. Maybe we'll cover that on the next program next month. But the urban hunt program isn't managed by Arkansas Game and Fish. We do regulate it, but we don't manage it. But it starts September 1st, and it's in Bull Shoals and it's in Lakeview. Those are the two areas in this part of the world.
And because the multitude of population out there?
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And the municipality actually elects to do that.
Yeah.
And again, it's a complex situation. But if you want to know more about that, you can call Bill Cracker, Craker. He is the administrator for that. He's with the Bull Shoals Urban Bow Hunters Association, and that's who administers those hunts. And his phone number is 870-321-1447. Or you can reach him through email at BS Bull Shoals, BS Urban Bow Hunt at yahoo.com. So he can give you the information on that, and there's a lot of regulations that go with that. So don't think you can just grab your bow and head to Bull Shoals and start shooting. It doesn't work like that. But he'll help you with that. Our regular archery season, that opens September 26th. I believe that's the last Saturday of the month, if I'm not mistaken.
For deer.
For deer, that's right.
Barrel open October the 1st.
October 1st, right. And then modern gun for these zones, because there's a bunch of zones, and they have different dates. But in zones 2 and 3, which is where Baxter County is, that starts November 14th and goes through December 6th. And then there's a special Christmas season. And anyway, go in and read the muzzle loading season. That opens October 17th and goes through October 25th. And then there's another December 12th through the 14th season. So anyway, seasons are coming. We sweating our brains out with this hot weather we're having. Probably not too much thinking about hunting or deer hunting, but it's right around the corner. And of course, we'll be loading up our hunter education classes. And so watch the website for that. A couple of things we have coming up at the Fred Berry Conservation Education Center on Crooked Creek. Boy, there's a mouthful, but anyway, that's the education facility we have over at Kelly's Slab in Yellville on Crooked Creek. This coming Saturday, we have our first Saturday programs. We have Using a Compass that starts at 9 o'clock. No registrations required for these, just show up. The first Saturday of September, which is the 5th, that's Target Archery Introduction. Then October 3rd, Corporal Tim Davenport, our wildlife officer in Marion County, he's going to be teaching bow hunting basics, and that starts at 10 o'clock. And then November we have a Knots for the Outdoors, and December we'll have winter bird feeding. So those are going on. And then another big event coming up over there is on August 8th, it's coming up soon, is a fishing derby for catfish. We have a catfish pond.
Where's that?
That's at Fred Berry, at the
Yep,
Fred Berry
yeah.
Center. Yep. There'll be a catch and
You'll
release.
send me information on that for the community calendar.
For the Derby? Yeah, sure will.
Yeah.
That's a good idea. Yep. We'll be glad to put that on there. And we provide everything, because if you want to bring your own fishing rod and your own tackle, you're more than welcome to. But if you don't want to, or if you don't have that, just show up. We'll provide you with rod and bait and all that kind of
What was
stuff.
the date on that fishing derby again?
August 8th.
That's coming up quick.
That's coming up pretty quick. And, of course, we've restarted our veterans education team, 3D competitive 3D archery league with the veterans. We came in and talked about that a few months ago. That started a couple of weeks ago over there, so we've got that cranked up. Any of you veterans out there that are interested in 3D archery, please give me a call. My phone number is 870-321-5548. I'll be glad to set you up on that.
Minute and a half before we close it out, gentlemen. Who's got some final thoughts?
Be
We're visiting with
safe.
Corporal Doug Small and Dennis Dunderdale, Arkansas Game and Fish.
Be safe. Have fun.
Common sense.
Common sense. Identify your target before you squeeze that trigger. If you're on the waterways, wear your life jacket. Nobody's ever drowned with a life jacket on. Be fun. Obey the rules of the road on the water. If you can't do it in a vehicle, you can't do it in a boat. You'll never have any problems out of us.
One other last thought on that too, especially with duck hunters and teal seasons coming soon. Of course, lots of folks, hunt for waterfowl and other things out of your boat. Number one, you can't shoot out of your boat while the boat's moving. But even if you're just using the boat to get to and from, remember that you're a boater. You're still subject to all of the boating regulations. You need to have a life jacket on board for everybody that's on board. If you've got a kid,
And check the weight restrictions on the life jackets.
Absolutely
overload.
right. If you take your boat, say if you're going to go from Cranfield to one of the archery only places, you don't want to throw 3 200-pound deer in the back and not in the boat on the way back and not expect to be overloaded. So take that into account when you're figuring your weight and balance on the boat. And that's
Be
about
safe.
it. Thanks.
Visiting with Dennis Dunderdale and Corporal Doug Small. Corporal Small is a wildlife officer, Enforcement Division with the Arkansas Game and Fish. Appreciate you gentlemen being here. A lot of information and education here.
Thank you for having
Thrilled
We
us.
to
may
be
need
here.
to do this more than once a month, Dennis. That wraps it up. We'll be back tomorrow. It's time for the Sean Hannity Daily Update. And as I always say, other good things. We'll see you tomorrow.